Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, hello everyone. So, with this now and today we would be entering into the exciting domain of urban political ecology. So, I have actually divided urban political ecology into three parts. In the first part I will be talking about the emergence and development of the field. In the second part I would be discussing more recent trends within urban political ecology, and in the last lecture, that is part 3, I would be actually talking about the internal schisms and debates within the field of urban political ecology, and also talking about the new political possibilities that urban political ecological scholars are discussing about. So, in this particular lecture, that is part 1 of urban political ecology, I would be mainly covering the context or the historical backdrop that actually played an important part in this transformation or the shift from political ecology to urban political ecology. So, urban political ecology, of course, it needs to be understood as an offshoot of the larger domain of political ecology. So, I will be discussing this transition from political ecology to UP or urban political ecology. Then I would be shedding light on the UP scholarship. So, mainly I will be focusing on the early literature, the earlier works by urban political ecologists, and finally I would be talking about the fundamental or the major concepts in UP. So, to begin with, first I need to really focus a bit on what political ecology is all about. I think some of you must be knowing what political ecology is, and some of you who had actually who did my water society sustainability course, the earlier one. So, there also I had discussed political ecology mainly focusing on the political ecology of water. So, again to give you a brief overview about what political ecology is all about. So, the first disclaimer is it's such a vast field that it's not possible to do a historiographical survey of the entire literature, the entire gamut that is available before us. And the political ecology is such a field which has actually made major advancements in the last 2.5 or 3 decades in that sense. And Paul Robbins, he wrote a book a few years back, I think it was published in 2012 on political ecology, and this book is known as Political Ecology, an Introduction. So, in that book Paul Robbins says that political ecology is such a vast field that and it's also quite difficult to say whether it is an academic discipline or is it a kind of a domain or is it also a community of practice. And Paul Robbins seemed to be more comfortable with this idea of community of practice. So, by this we then immediately understand that political ecology is not only pursued by hardcore academic researchers, but it is also a field which is pursued and practiced by practitioners, people who work in close association with communities. For example, communities inhabiting ecosystem zones and ecosystem dependent communities, etc. So, this is a vast field. It's a kind of an umbrella framework, an umbrella discipline, and community of practice, etc. And of course, it definitely it drew a whole lot of insights from Marxian theories and Marxian literature, specifically from domains like critical development research, peasant studies, environmental history, cultural ecology, post-colonial theory, etc. And when I would be discussing some of the works, I will be basically shedding light on UP scholarship. You will be able to see that how all these various the different arguments or the different methodologies used by these theories like post-colonial theory or cultural ecology, how these theories and methodologies also had made way to build the framework of political ecology. So, this particular domain is very, very significant, because it unpacks processes, players and dynamics that are at work politicizing the natural environment. And why political ecology is my favorite, or for that matter political ecology is such a it's such a popular field, I must say, because it help us to understand, and it enable us to understand what is not natural in nature. So, and that is why Paul Robbins is saying that it is such a significant framework, it is such a significant tool or lens of analysis that I mean, for so far as any practitioner is concerned, so far as any academic researcher is concerned, he or she, if he or she is actually deploying this particular lens of analysis, immediately he or she will be able to unfurl and unpack the various processes, the dynamics, the actors, the players, all these things, how the interactions go on among among people, and how the entire production of environment actually remains extremely political. So, lot of developments actually took place later, and as the framework or as a discipline kept advancing. So, for example, there is a particular framework again which is ANT or the actor network theory, and there are some debates about the relation between ANT and P, actor network theory, and political ecology, but generally it is understood, or ANT is perceived as a kind of a tool to strengthen the theory and method in urban political ecology and in political ecology as a whole. So, political ecology enables us to kind of understand and unveil group specific access to nature, and also study the negotiation processes around entitlements to ecological resources. So, it not only discusses environmental conflicts or environmental degradation relating to quantity and quality of resource, but also relating to access, who gains what, who remain the gainers and who are the losers. So, it helps us to understand these negotiation processes or mediations among various actors classified along social hierarchies around entitlement to ecological resources. So, that is why this field is so very significant, and this is something which I have taken from Annie Radmacher, and Radmacher says that just concentrate on this particular quote at the bottom of this particular slide. So, because natural resource stocks are often found at the margins of dense human settlements, early ethnographic work associated with political ecology was largely located in rural or agrarian settings. Yes, this is also true, that why the early scholars, the scholars who initiated this field, actually they remain restricted to the rural setting, because for example, if you see this particular book, Land, Degradation and Society by Blake and Brookfield. So, this is a seminal book, and you go through any state of the art analysis literature on political ecology, you will see that this book is actually cited as the first major work that kind of introduced political ecology, and they also deployed a methodology which they say regional political ecology. So, in this particular book, Blake and Brookfield, they discuss land management, and they argue that land management is such an important thing because several other things like salinization, flooding, soil erosion, productivity, all these things are related to land management. But then how is land managed? Who are the various actors? And not only the land managers, but several other actors who play an important part in land management, and how land management is also related to the larger processes of society, and what kind of human responses are elicited. So, everything together they take into consideration, and they try to discuss land management. And so, from Blake to Brookfield, to several other works that had gone that had facilitated the evolution and emergence of political ecology, you will see that basically the scholars during the initial years, maybe during the first decade or maybe little less than a decade, they concentrated mainly on agrarian settings. and that is why it remained, the focus remained mainly on the underdeveloped and also on the rural areas or the rural sites. So, before I move on to the shift from political ecology to urban political ecology, I think it is important for us to discuss the 5 theses of political ecology. This is again from Paul Robbins. I will definitely encourage you to go through the introductory book on political ecology by Paul Robbins, and there he discusses these 5 theses, and if you try to understand these 5 theses, then I think more or less your job is done. So, if you really familiarize yourself with these 5 theses of political ecology and what is explained in each of these theses and what is the relevance of each of these theses, because the relevance lies in the explanation, and that is why political ecology comes out as such a significant tool, as such an important framework enabling us to understand environmental degradation in a way which unfortunately environmental sciences are not able to do. So, the first thesis is about degradation and marginalization. So, what is explained in degradation and marginalization? Environmental conditions, of course, relating to degradation, and the reasons for the change. All right. And what is the relevance of this particular thesis of political ecology? Because this thesis, why is it important? Because environmental degradation has long been blamed on marginal people. So, just think about Malthus. So, Malthus and unfortunately this Malthusian understanding or paradigm, it is having a long lasting legacy on us. You ask anyone, you ask any student for that matter, you ask any politician, immediately they will say we are not being able to do anything because our population is increasing. So, immediately the entire blame is actually put on numbers. So, I do not want to make an extreme comment by saying that yes, population is not a problem at all. Definitely population is a problem, numbers definitely numbers and population density, they are major challenges, and during the COVID times especially we from India, we can really realize the importance of population density or the kind of the importance of population impacting several other variables. But at the same time, that environmental degradation cannot be explained solely on the basis of increase in numbers, and that this kind of an idea is actually a fallacy. This is, I think, a seminal contribution of the political ecologists. So, here the relevance of the thesis is that it has long been blamed on marginal people. So, environmental degradation long being blamed on marginal people, and political ecologists show that how environmental degradation and marginalization are actually related to the larger political, historical and economic context. Conservation and control. So, what is explained? Conservation outcomes and especially failures. So, the failures of the conservation initiatives, this is again something on which the political ecologists had written a lot. And what is the relevance? Because usually conservation initiatives are viewed as benign, right, viewed as positive, benign efforts, and efforts at environmental conservation are here shown to have pernicious effects and sometimes fail as a result. So, political ecologists again, I think they have done a wonderful job in basically showing the limits of these conservation efforts and how it is absolutely how conservation discourses from global to the local level are extremely power laden, how they are imbued with power hierarchies. So, the third thesis is environmental conflict and exclusion. So, what is explained? Access to the environment and conflicts over exclusion from it, especially natural resources. And what is the relevance? Environmental conflicts are shown to be part of larger gendered, classed and race struggles and vice versa. This is also very, very important, that I just mentioned that power laden. I just talked about how all these efforts remain imbued with power hierarchies. So, every analysis what you do so far as ecological degradation or environmental conflicts or environmental management are concerned, these discussions cannot remain politically neutral. You have to loop into in these discussions there are several other social aspects like class, like race, like gender, etc. So, because you have to understand that finally mediations or negotiations are continuously, constantly getting produced and reproduced, where the actors come from different classes and they are part of the social hierarchical pyramid. So, any analysis for that matter, any ecological analysis, any analysis on ecological conflicts and degradation definitely need to incorporate this class, gender, race angles. So, and this is again one of the fundamental contributions so far as this particular field of political ecology is concerned. So, the last thesis is political objects and actors, socio-political conditions, deeply or especially deeply structured ones. Relevance: political and economic systems are shown to be underpinned and affected by the non-human actors with which they are intertwined, right. So, though it is and we will discuss that though the role of human definitely is very much acknowledged, because human beings really play a very important role in manipulation and mediations, but at the same time the agency and role of the non-human actors, whether animate or inanimate, is also very much recognized and acknowledged within the field of political ecology, and the environmental humanities scholars, they had also drawn, or they are still drawing, a whole lot of insights from the field of political ecology. So, so this is my opinion that the idea that environmental humanities and political ecology, they are connected fields. So, one of the major connection is this focus on the non-human world or the non-human actors who play an equally significant role in the making of environment. All right. So, now I move on to this particular discussion of this shift from political ecology to urban political ecology. So, actually not just a shift, but this is basically how after a particular point of time scholars or the academicians with political ecology as the bent of mind, they started focusing on urban settings and they started focusing on the making and remaking, the shaping and reshaping of the urban environment. And definitely I have to mention Eric Singedu. So, the Belgian scholar who was the disciple or the student of David Harvey, the famous Marxist geographer David Harvey. So, Eric Singedu he actually published this particular article called "The City as a Hybrid on Nature, Society and Cyborg Urbanization." So, Eric Singedu, the spelling is little difficult like his works, but Singedu has to be discussed, because Singedu, I do not know whether it will be an exaggeration if I say, or if I consider Singedu to be the father of urban political ecology. So, so what happened is that the context, if we think about the context, then definitely we know that since the 1990s, so far as this Brundtland report and these different conferences which are going on focusing on urban development, or rather focusing on sustainability or sustainable development, that also started discussing urban sustainability or sustainable urban development. And because definitely it was getting clear that the world was rapidly urbanizing with a whole lot of additional challenges for mainly for the cities of the global south. So, it became important to kind of now remove the focus from the underdeveloped world and the rural to the urban settings, and that is why reinserting questions of nature and ecology into the urban debate became so very significant. And the urban political ecologists, they started untangling economic, political, social and ecological processes that form contemporary urban landscapes. And as I mentioned, Singedu is his works are seminal so far as urban political ecology is concerned. And Singedu, Singedu, as I remember, I think he is the first scholar, or for the first time he conceptualized city as a hybrid. So, as socio-natural assemblage. So, what do we mean by this? So, Singadu actually thinks about the city as a hybrid, because he takes into consideration several parameters or several variables, from biophysical and biochemical processes to material aspects to socio-economic characteristics, cultural attributes, everything together, that make the social production of urban environment possible. So, that is why he he visualized the city as these quote unquote socio-natural assemblage, and he also introduced this term socio-nature, right. And definitely David Harvey in the same year in this particular book which was published in 1996, the same year when Eric Singadu wrote this article. So, David Harvey said that there is nothing unnatural about New York City, and Eric Singadu also made it quite evident that yes, there is nothing unnatural about any city for that matter in any part of the world. So, it is important to understand city as socio-natural assemblage. Yes, these are some very significant earlier works by scholars like Eric Singadu, Maria Kaika, Nick Heinen, and also Matthew Gandhi. And there are groups, so they work in close association with each other. You will see later, I will also discuss some of the books. For example, this particular book, the last one from the right hand side. So, in the nature of cities. So, this is an edited volume. So, this book has been edited by Maria Kaika, Nick Heinen, and Eric Singadu, and it has number of chapters that discuss several aspects of urban environment. And so, these are the books which are so very significant, including Concrete and Clay by Matthew Gandhi, Social Power and the Urbanization of Water by Eric Singadu, City of Flows by Maria Kaika, and this edited volume that I just talked about, In Nature of Cities. And in this book, definitely in all these works, you will see that a city actually has been kind of explained as socio-natural assemblage. And I would definitely like to I found this particular quote by Singadu to be very, very significant because this captures the essence and the flavor of urban political ecology. So, please concentrate on all the words. So, all these words are so very significant, and this is how do I say, this is strong, this is very, very strong, and this is deep. So, you have to really concentrate on this quote a lot. So, Singadu says that in the city, society and nature, representation and being are inseparable. So, everything, they are there together, they are interacting continuously. Society, city, nature, representation, being, integral to each other, infinitely bound up, yet simultaneously this hybrid socio-natural thing called the city is full of contradictions, tensions and conflicts. So, these contradictions, tensions and conflict actually shape urban environment in cityscapes. Only over the past few years, a rapprochement has begun to assert itself between ecological thinking, political economy, urban studies and critical social and cultural theory. So, later I will discuss, I think in my subsequent presentation, that how different fields actually have come together to kind of make the emergence and evolution of urban political ecology actually possible. So, this may provide the ferment from which a new and richer urban ecology or urban political ecology may germinate. So, this is from Singadu 1996, and this is extremely powerful because it captures the essence and the depth and flavor of this particular domain called urban political ecology. So, what these scholars have done, the authors of this book, so they have talked about how economic, political and cultural processes in cities shape and are shaped by urban metabolism and ecological conditions. So, definitely I will now discuss urban metabolism, what urban metabolism is all about, because urban metabolism is one of the fundamental concepts in urban political ecology, and not only in urban political ecology, but in several other urban studies. So, I think when we discussed urban environmental history, we also discussed urban metabolism, but here we will see how urban political ecologists actually they try to understand urban metabolism, and why urban political ecological understanding of urban metabolism is so very significant for us to kind of unfurl, unpack, unveil urban ecological processes at the global, regional, national and local scales at large. So, yes, urban metabolism is one of the fundamental concepts in urban political ecology, and how the UP, the UP scholars have kind of defined urban metabolism or explained urban metabolism. So, this is from Nick Heinen, where he says that urban metabolism can be understood from the frame of urban political ecology. It can be understood as a dynamic process by which new socio-spatial formations, intertwinings of materials and collaborative enmeshing of social nature emerge and present themselves and are explicitly created through human labor and non-human processes simultaneously. This will, I know this is quite difficult to grasp, but I think I will be able to make it clearer in my next slide. All right. So, but what is very important, from all these arguments, whether it is by Nick Heinen or it is by Maria Kaika or it is by Eric Singer, we will see all the terms or the terminologies or words or vocabulary which seem to be the most important are enmeshings, right, interactions, intertwinings, collaborations, inseparability. So, these enmeshing or this collaboration, interaction, they really occupy the predominant space in political ecological or more specifically urban political ecological understanding. So, this is something which I would like to highlight, that you have to really focus on hybridity as a concept, and this we will discuss in the next slide, which will be the last slide for this presentation. So, yes, this early and I must say again that the early in the early works, the scholars also their discussions I mean surrounded on contestations on I mean drinking water, mainly tensions and negotiations relating to access to drinking water, where they try to show or capture the uneven socio-natural production of urban hydroscapes. So, political ecology of water in that sense, or urban political ecology of water in that sense, is it's a very significant field, because the whole discussion is surrounding urban political ecology of infrastructures, and drinking water occupy a very significant space in this entire discussion and scholarship. So, apart from drinking water, or apart from urban utilities, there are several other host of vectors which have kind of have added the empirical heft of urban political ecology, including research on air pollution, parks, urban forests, urban wildlife, gentrification, insects and pesticides, gardens and food, explicitly organic food, alcohol, hunger. So, these are the several other vectors which have added the empirical heft of urban political ecology, and it has also expanded in axiomatic ways the notion that there is truly nothing unnatural about the making of the urban environment. So, yes, the two fundamental concepts, and definitely the two fundamental concepts related to each other, according to my argument or proposition, is that I mean these are the two fundamental concepts that define urban political ecology. So, one is metabolism and urban metabolism, and the other one is hybridity. Now, so what is urban metabolism? I think we had already discussed urban metabolism when we discussed urban environmental history, and when we also had a presentation on urban the significance of urban environmental social sciences frameworks, right. And what is why urban metabolism is so important in urban political ecology, or rather what kind of additional inputs or insights these urban political ecologists or urban political ecology scholars bring to this concept of urban metabolism, is that in UPE urban metabolism is highly political. it is understood and it is explained in highly political sense of the term. So, here the idea is that Singadu himself says why it is important to kind of mobilize circulation and metabolism as socio-ecological processes, because this will enable us to better frame the questions surrounding environment and questions that are radically political. So, and the idea is that urban metabolism also is a concept which had been discussed and explained for long by eco-socialist theoreticians, and they explain urban metabolism in terms of flow of energy, flow of matter, etc. But here urban particle ecologists, they try to explain, and they say that they argue that energy exchanges are definitely, they remain historical products, and human input remains so very important, because human input in this entire process of metabolism is actually controlled by human needs and interests, human drives and desires and imaginations. But who are the human beings we are talking about? Whose interests and needs are made? The interests and needs of every human being? No. That is not how it works. The needs and interests of the powerful people in the society, for sure, the elite people. So, so it is important to kind of highlight the political part of it. So, the whole process, the metabolism does not remain politically neutral, rather it is shaped and it is kind of manipulated by human beings to a great extent, and human beings who are powerful, who are located in the upper rung or upper echelon of the society. So, definitely uneven power hierarchies, unequal power hierarchies is something which shapes the process of metabolism or urban metabolism for that matter. And some scholars like Holyfield and others, they had mentioned that better than urban metabolism, or maybe like better than urban political ecology scholars, the scholars focusing on ANT or actor network theory, they had done a good job to explain urban metabolism, because they ask more socio-naturally oriented questions. But I really don't I don't very much agree with this argument, because to me this ANT and P, they are not contradictory, rather they complement each other. And similarly the Latourian paradigm of hybridity and the Singaduian paradigm on urban metabolism, they really talk to each other and they complement each other in a very rich sense and potentially fruitful ways. So, what is hybrid? So, hybrid or hybridity has been explained by Bruno Latour. So, he explains hybrid as mixtures of nature and culture. So, to him hybrids are tangled beings, assemblages of different entities that cannot be divided in two poles. So, looking at hybrid hybrids allows a new visibility of matters of concern, which include non-humans, humans, as well as the producers of assemblages. So, in similar vein, like Singadu also not only tries to understand hybrid as a piece of matter for that matter, but he focuses on the processual characters. Right. So, and he says that hybridization is also to a great extent manipulated. So, because he kind of investigates the commodification of hybrids, or he investigates the commodification aspect of the hybridization process. So, I will give an example. So, for example, let us think about how non-human entities, they are sometimes introduced to kind in sewage treatment plants. So, immediately hybrid process gets commodified. Similarly, the production of nuclear energy or solar energy, they also remain extremely power-laden, and the actors, they manipulate and they kind of they do to a great extent, they shape hybridization as a process. And Senghuru is right, he is absolutely right to say that though yes, it is true that metabolism is actually co-produced by humans and non-humans, but at the same time humans dominate and humans manipulate and mediate the entire system, because the whole thing is so very power laden, it remains power laden to a great extent. So, I mean, the whole thing, the entire process is actually politicized, and that is why, and these concepts and I mean their politicization as part of this whole discussion of urban political ecology is so very significant for us to kind of unpack this uneven geographies of power and this uneven urban or this uneven geographical processes at large, where we are able to see this domination and subordination and these hierarchies in the making and remaking, continuous in the constant production and reproduction of urban nature. So, contestations, negotiations, tensions, these are the processes that remain so very important, and that is why it remains important to understand the processual characters of the interactions and the interactive agencies that make urban nature and that kind of facilitate the production and reproduction of the urban environment. So, these are the concepts, these are the major concepts that make urban political ecology such a significant and such an exciting domain. So, these are some of the references. There are number of references because there are, I mean, it's very rich, the whole domain. UP is really a very significant domain which has made major advances in the last few years. So, we had discussed the state, I mean, I had tried to do a state of the art analysis, mainly focusing on the first wave of urban political ecology, that is the earlier works by scholars. I have discussed this transformation from P to UP, or more importantly how urban was accommodated within the larger political ecological literature. I had talked about two major concepts here, and they are if I try to use the urban political ecology jargon or vocabulary, then how urban metabolism and hybridity, these concepts are enmeshed and how they are intertwined with each other. So, these are some of the things that we had discussed in this particular lecture, which is focused on urban political ecology and the first part of urban political ecology, because now we are left with two other lectures which will again be focusing on the UP domain. Thank you.